Hello, guys. Welcome to this WordPress course. And today we're going to discuss the topics that we're going to cover in this particular section. So let's just move on and try to understand what are the topics we're going to work on in this particular section. First is we will understand the basics of hosting and domain, right? And second, also we'll be talking more about the hosting and the domain. So I have divided these concepts into two parts so that it becomes easier for you to understand. And in one part, I would be mostly focusing on the domain part, and in the other, I would be mostly focusing on the hosting parts where I have already covered most of these concepts, right, in the basic workshop. But there are certain more concepts that are important and that you ought to know before actually going ahead and being a master with the WordPress. You also need to understand how the domain and the hosting works. So in the first part, I will be basically going through a brief revision of all what we have already covered in the basic workshop. And after that, a brief revision, what I'm going to do is there's something important, some concepts that you ought to know that were left out in the basic workshop. I shall be discussing that about the domains. Then we shall be working on the practical parts of the domain and the subdomain. So we did discuss about the domains and the subdomains, but there needs to be an in-depth knowledge that you need to know about the subdomains. So that is something that I will be actually going ahead with. Then next would be which domain to choose, or it would be basically which domain registrar should you choose, and does it matter which domain registrar you are choosing, and what are the pros and cons of choosing a particular domain registrar, and what you should actually keep in mind while going through purchasing the domain, right? So this would be the first part of the hosting and the domain part. And in the second part, I will be mostly focusing on the hosting. And over here, first, I will be telling you a little bit more about hosting, which we have not covered. And then we'll be talking about the types of hosting that are available, because there are various types of hosting that are available and how the segregations work. And, being into this particular field of WordPress and website designing, you have to know about the hosting plans. You have to know about how the hosting is segregated, right? Then we did talk about trying to understand the website, because what we did is in the basic workshop was we just went ahead with one particular plan, and I just told you which one you can buy for yourself. But in this particular part, I will be guiding you to how to actually analyze it better and try to understand how do we actually go about choosing a hosting. First, you need to understand what your website is made of, how your website is, so that you can better judge and try to find out the right hosting for you. So that would be covered under the trying to understand your website part. Then we would look at the features of a hosting company. So we did purchase a hosting, but it is important to understand when we purchase that, what were the things that were kept in mind while doing that. And in case tomorrow you decide to purchase a new hosting, or you decide that you want another hosting, you want to shift your hosting, then also these are the features you have to look for, right, while purchasing the hosting. So we will be talking about what are the features that you ought to go about once you're exploring the hostings. You need to think in a particular specific way that this service or this particular feature is available or not. Then we shall actually go about looking at the different hostings. I will tell you a little bit more about some hosting that we have not covered. That will be also be included. I will be telling you certain things about it. And also, after being capable enough to understand the features, looking at the hosting that were already discussed, you would have a very different point of view. So we will discuss that as well, right? So this is all about what we're going to discuss in this particular section. And this is important. Some of the concepts you might feel are already covered, but if once you go in deep, you will understand there's much more that is to be, you ought to know about the hosting and the domain. And once this concept is clear, then you would be done with the hosting and domain, and you will never face a problem when selecting a host or selecting the right hosting plan for your website. So that is the goal of this section. And with this, your hosting and domain part would be completed, right? So I hope so, guys. This was interesting and you were easily able to understand what we're going to cover in this section. And that's all for this video, guys. So thank you for watching this video. Hello, guys. Welcome to this WordPress course. And in this particular lecture, we shall be discussing about the basics of hosting and domain. I do understand we have already covered this in the basic workshop, but it is a time that we do need to understand certain more concepts about hosting and domain, as well as I will be going through a brief revision. So let's just look at the topics that we're going to cover in this lecture. Firstly, I will be talking about there'll be a brief introduction or a brief revision about the concepts that we have already covered about hosting and domain. And quickly moving on to the next topic, I'll be talking a little more concepts that are relevant for you to know about the domain. Then I will be talking about the practical parts that are involved in a domain and a subdomain, because we haven't talked that much about subdomains. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk in details about domains and subdomains so that you understand the structure and the hierarchy a little better. Then we'll be talking about which domain to choose, or in specifically which domain registrar should you choose, and what is the pro and the con in selecting the domain registrar that you are going to go with. So this is going to be all about domains and subdomains, and this will give you a good idea about how the domains are organized, whatever was left out in the basic workshop and was intentionally left out so that you could understand better once your basic part is complete, right? So let's just move on, and starting with this first part where I'll be talking about the domains and the subdomains. Then we'll continue this concept again with the hosting as well. So let me just start off with a brief revision. Firstly, I will be talking about now the normally what happens is the computer understands certain language that is in binary or in numbers, right? Computer understands something that is one or zero, either it's on, either it's off. And based on that, we compose numbers inside computers, and we compose millions, like millions and trillions of computer, and those calculations are basically everything inside a computer. What I'm trying to tell you is based on numbers. So similarly, when we talk about the domains, the computer understands the computer understands IP addresses. So that is like 102.45.32.12. So if you ever have configured a broadband, or if you have ever configured a router, you would probably have come across this term called IP address. And this IP address is certain, it's like a number with a dot form. It's certain something like that, right? And this is what the computer works with. But as humans, it is not possible for us to actually go ahead and understand what is this. And for that, that is where the domain comes in, and that is what the domain is actually used for. Suppose if I tell you the Google's IP address is 102.45.32.12, and how many domains would you be actually able to remember? Right now, for Facebook it's something, for LinkedIn it's something. So how many these numbers would you be able to remember? That is why, to make it easy for the humans, the domain concept was introduced. And that's why the computer on the back end performs an IP address. It uses the IP addresses, and for the humans in the front end, we just use the domain names to actually access a website. Now, the domain name is the address basically that you have to purchase from the domain registrars, which we'll be talking about in the later part of this lecture. And basically, this is important. Only after doing this would you be able to take your website online. That you must have already, that we've already done in the basic workshop as well. Next, we're going to now also talk about a little bit about hosting so that the concept becomes relevant. Now, hosting refers to the space on the internet, right? It is like on your computer, if you have to put a file inside it, you need a space, you need a hard disk, right? And inside that hard disk, you need space. Or in your phone itself, if you want to create a video with via your camera, you would also need some space. If there's no space, you cannot actually put in the data. So hosting refers to the space on the internet, right? On When I say on the internet, what I mean is space on the server, right? And we have to purchase this to keep our website files live. And this also allows us to once a person accesses that domain, he will be guided to that particular files that are stored inside that space on the internet, or that the files inside the server. Now, the server is just another computer that has an operating system, like the computer that you're using, or a laptop that you're using, or a mobile phone that also has an operating system that you're using, right? So it is just another operating system, and it is just optimized to handle requests and responses. So that is what this the server is all about. It is similar to a computer. So you once you hear a name called server, you don't have to be like, oh, what is this? Like, this is something, this must be something fancy. No, it is just a computer, but optimized to do a specific task. and it takes in your request. Once you click, once you type in www.google.com, it takes in your request, and it realizes this is the website that you want. It will search through the through the server, and once it finds it, it will retrieve the data and give you a response. So that is all the server does. And uh, to host a website, basically you need to purchase a domain and a hosting. Without the domain and a hosting, your website would not be live, right? And this was something that we had already covered in the basic workshop, and I hope so this brief revision, it made it clear to you all the concepts regarding this part. Now let's just move on and try to understand a little bit more about the domains. Now the domain has been organized like these dots and these divisions mean something. Now how it works about is, uh, your the domain that you type, like www.google.com supposedly, then how the division works is, firstly we need to understand certain parts in www.google.com are not shown because that is something that is not being used. But if you if I say that the overall how you can make up a domain is www dot first comes your subdomain. So if you have a website google.com, then you can have it for once. It can be like www.blog.google.com. That means the blog part will become the subdomain, or probably www.ecommerce.google.com. So that will e-commerce. It's kind of a sub part of your google.com website, right? So the subdomain comes in first, then comes your main domain name, like google.com is the main domain name, right? Then comes the directory. Supposedly you, once you install the WordPress, it asks you for that WP installation, right? So that is something, if you're working in Hostinger, right, then it will ask you for that. Do you want to be make it blank, the directory, or probably you would want to make it add some folder to it. So basically, since it's a server and these are going to be the files that are going to store inside the server, they are going to follow a hierarchy of folders and files. So just be clear with this concept. Everything inside a server is going to be just like how it is in the computer. So it is going to, these dots simply mean accessing different folders. So the main domain is like the first folder, then your subdomain is the folder inside the main domain, then there might be a directory inside it. So suppose you have some like how you organize your photos. Supposedly first is your C drive. Suppose so C drive, you have a photos folder. Inside the photos folder you have your 20 photo files, right? Inside 20 photo files you have your May files, January files, right? So like this, and finally once you open that folder in the May or in the June folder, then you have your photo files, right? So that is how the inside the server also the things work out. You have your main domain, that is the main folder. Inside that main folder you have a subdomain folder. If you have multiple subdomains, right, then you have all your multiple subdomains would be listed inside your main domain server. Then inside that you will have the directory. Suppose that you have further divisions, then your main directory will have further directory is just a folder only. So inside the subdomain also you can have a folder, and inside that folder also you can have another folder, and then you can have your page like the home.html, about.html, contact.html. So like this, it is a certain organization how the domain works. And for the WordPress, you can consider it something like this. You would have a main domain, then you would have a subdomain, then you would have probably a WordPress install inside it, right? So this is the hierarchy on how if you've programmed your website via coding, then also it would work the same, or if you've used the WordPress install, then also it will work the same. All right. Then moving on, the domain basically is divided into the top level domain and the second level domain. The top level domain is basically, like the .com, .net, .org. So basically this .com, org, net, gov, in, CA, all these are the top level domains which define, like .in will define it's in India, .gov will define it's a government website, right? .edu would define it's an educational website, right? So these are the top level domains. And the second level domain is basically going to be the name that you choose while purchasing it. So suppose I choose a name abc.com, so that is abc, so that abc is going to be my second level domain, and .com is going to be my top level domain. Now the subdomains are basically created to organize different sections inside a website. Now what happens is, if you have multiple websites also, you can use it in different ways. It's similar to using multiple folders. So once I say subdomain, you can say the folders inside the main primary folder. So once your primary folder is your main domain name, So subdomain is something that is going to be inside that main domain name, right? So it can be used to organize your website, or probably it can be used for testing as well. So right, so you can register one domain, like the main domain that you choose, and instead of purchasing a new domain, because subdomain won't cost you anything, right? Because you can, it will depend upon the hosting provider. If it allows you to make, or your hosting plan, if it allows you to make multiple subdomains, then you just have to purchase one domain name, and under it you can have multiple folders like the subdomains, and create your WordPress installs inside these particular subfolders. So that will reduce the cost, and that will be more efficient for you. But understand, this will also reduce, this will also increase the load, like the load on the server, right? So depending upon which plan you're using, you can go for this, right? And basically what it is used for is to create demo websites, or for staging, or for testing websites. Staging is something that is just like, you create one website and then you push it to the production. Basically, you create one website as a demo and just trial and do it for trial and testing, and then you may, if once you realize this is perfect, you just push it to the production, and that will become your live website. So any changes that are performed in the staging, they can be uploaded to the production. So that is how the, the professionals, or the professional level work goes about when you're working in teams. And for you guys, it is just like a testing part where you can go ahead, test things, and once you like it, you can just go ahead and move your website to the main area. All right. So this was something that was about domains that you actually had to know. And moving on, let's just go ahead and look at something practical, where we're going to talk about the domains and the subdomains. And whatever we have taught up till now, it might be just like you would have to imagine. Let me just guide you to it, how it actually works about. All right, guys. So considering, since server is another folder, like it's another computer. So a server will also have a file structure that, like, probably your computer is using. So to understand the domain and the subdomain parts, what you need to do is, I'll just guide you through how certain things, if you're working in Hostinger, these are the folders that you might find. Now, there might be a lot of more folders. I will be just talking about two important folders. All right. There might be 3, 4 more folders or files that are present over here inside. If we consider this as the main part, or as the file manager, I will tell you how to reach this part also inside your server, inside your Hostinger server. I will tell you how to reach there as well. But presently, let's just look at this part. Once we reach there, how are the things going to be organized? So there might be multiple folders over here. I'll just be focusing on two. First is, you would be having a domains folder in case you have multiple domains, right? In case you purchase 3 main domains, right? In case you have three websites, one travel website, one blogging website, one e-commerce website. So you have 3 websites that you created at the main domains, right? Remember this, main domains, not the subdomain. I'm talking about main domains. So these domains will be listed inside the domains folder, and there might be one primary domain which Hostinger asks you to make. Like once you're going to install the WordPress, and if you have multiple domains, the Hostinger is going to ask you to make one primary domain that you would make, and that would be listed over here. And you don't have to worry about this. It would be a link folder, so you don't have to worry about this. Let it be. You don't go there. If you have to access certain things, you just go to the domains. So once you go to the domains, all the domains present will be listed over here. So you see, it is like my main domain one. There's going to be your first domain. Suppose e-commerce website, blog website, sports website, any website. All these domains that you have, like abc.com, xyz.com. So all in all your domains will be listed over here. Then what you have to do is, once you open one of the domain that you choose, under this, you will find a public domains directory. So everything that can be accessed globally is listed under the public HTML. So once you open this, you will find your subdomains inside it. So suppose now I have one website, abc.com, and I have a subdomain named subdomain, right? Or probably sports. Sports is my one domain. Second is fashion. Third is probably gadgets. So I have 3 basic subdomains that I have. So how the subdomains are going to work? All the subdomains that I have will be listed over here. Once I open up a subdomain, I will find the WordPress files and folders inside this. So once this is after the installation, once you've installed everything inside this subdomain, all of these files will be listed over here. So this is how the structure works about inside the domains or inside your file manager. So let's just look at how the file manager is organized and how you can access these things. So to access these things, what you need to do is you need to come to your Hostinger panel. right? And you need to click on manage. Once you click on manage, you will be listed to your dashboard. And inside your dashboard, if you have multiple domains present over here, you can actually select the one that you want. In case you have just one domain, then you don't have to worry about it. It won't be a problem. If you have multiple domains, main domains that I'm talking about, you can just click on one of the domains that you actually have to work on. Once you click on that, just go down, scroll down, and over here inside the files part, you will have a files manager. So click on the files manager, and once you click on the files manager, you will be directed to certain browser that like something similar to how we were accessing the things inside our PC, right? So this will have all the things, all the files that you actually need to know or you actually need to work with. All right. So I hope so this part was clear to you guys. Let's just move on to the next topic. So guys, we've talked about the domains a lot. Now it is time to understand which domain registrar should you actually go about to it, and like does it matter or how does it affect us, right? So let's just go ahead and check this out. Now, firstly, guys, starting with the Hostinger, I just wanted to let you know. In Hostinger, if you've chosen the third plan or the second plan, you have 100 websites. And once they say 100 websites, you can create individual 100 websites, or what I mean to say is you can buy 100 domains and create 100 websites in it, or you can use one main domain and create subdomains inside it and create 100 websites under the subdomain. Obviously I won't tell you to go about creating 100 websites because that would put a lot of load, but technically you can go ahead and create this much websites. Practically it is not possible to create 100 websites if 100 websites are listed because the load would be so much, and especially when the traffic is too much. We've already discussed about this also. So in case you have a lot of load on your web page, then definitely you will be restricted to how many websites that you can make. But all in all, you can go about and creating take one domain and create subdomains which would not cost you anything. The one domain, it will only cost one domain, a price of one domain, and not the other domains, so not the subdomains. And in case you purchase separate domains, the main domains, then you would have to pay for every domain that you create. Once this is if this picture is clear, let's just move on. Moving on, starting with Hostinger itself. If I have to purchase a domain, one, you would be given for free if you have chosen the second and the third plan. And if you go to the domains, go to the domain checker. Over here you can type the name that you want. So whatever name that you type, right, I'm just typing a random name. You can just go about searching it, and once you do that, it will tell you if it is available. So over here it's 679 per year. The renewal cost is going to cost you 999. So after the next time you renew, it's going to cost you 999 plus the GST. So whatever the price that becomes, it's going to be somewhere around 1100, 1200, something like that, right? But they don't offer you like if I add this to cart, and let me just go about adding this to cart. And once you add this to cart, they won't basically actually go and give you that privacy part. So for the privacy part, you would I just continue the cart. You would have to purchase. Now what is privacy? Domain privacy allows you to hide your details. If you don't use the domain privacy, you have to, once you have to purchase something from Hostinger or any other company, you have to list your details regarding your email, your numbers, or probably your personal details like your name, right? If you don't want that name or the email it is registered to, or the address, if you don't want that to be listed, someone to check it, like, then you need that domain privacy option. So that is offered separately. You have to actually add it, like hide personal information for my domain only at 299 per year. So you will have, this will add on the cost to it, right? Now you can do that. You should do that, like, if, and that will make the cost, if I do it for 1 year, let me just delete this is an extra. So this will cost you around 870 on the first part. The next time it's going to be 999 plus that GST and plus that this 299 per year, right? So that is going to be the cost. Now, if you go about with the which is all right, and if you go about with GoDaddy, it's really expensive. I don't recommend it. But if you have to go about using this, then it will cost you with the domain privacy and all approximately around 1600 rupees with GST. Once you want to renew it for the first year, they'll tell you 99 rupees, and now this is telling me 249 rupees plus the GST and everything and all. So the GoDaddy initial price is very easy, like it's less, but the renewal price, it shoots up. So I wouldn't recommend it, but you can go about doing this also. All right. Moving on, then it's the Namecheap. This is very famous because they provide the privacy option inside whatever they charge. They don't charge it separately. So the best company, if I would have to recommend, is the Namecheap, because they tell you, how to actually, they give you a lot of service also. They're very reputed in terms of domains. So you can go ahead and, this will cost you approximately around 130 or 1100 rupees only, 1000 rupees only, right? So you can go about using this part also. So it's your choice. Go ahead with whatever you want, but do try to take up the domain privacy to protect the details, because your details can be found out if you have not taken up the privacy option. All right. So I hope so, guys, you were able to get a clear idea about what all options are available and what are the pros and the cons of choosing any of these. And I also told my recommendation to you. Uh, and yes, if you have a query regarding this, can we go ahead and configure a different domain with a different hosting? Yes, we can do that. So you don't have to worry about it. You can go ahead and do that. Whatever domain that you have already gotten with with Hostinger plan, you can go about doing that also. In case you want another domain, you can choose Hostinger itself to make it easier. Then it would be easier. If you have to do it, check with Namecheap, you can go ahead and do that, and then also it won't be a problem. But you just have to do one more step to link this domain with the hosting inside the Hostinger. So that is all you have to do, and that is very simple steps. You don't have to worry about it. But all in all, you can actually go ahead and do that. So I hope so, guys. This was clear. Let's just move on. So guys, I'll just talk about some certain pointers. We discussed a lot about domains and subdomains, a little bit about hosting, about domain registrars. Let's just take in certain points that are important. Firstly, you can choose any company for purchasing the domain, but do make sure you check that privacy, domain privacy option that will hide your details. Secondly, you can create the subdomains as per how much your plan or your hosting company provides. As per that, you can create the as many subdomains, right? And thirdly, the subdomains are used to, they basically, are used to create testing websites and staging areas. So this is something that you should know from this part, because we have covered the domains part, we have covered which all companies that you can choose from, we have covered the subdomains part and how the directories are organized. It's what is the server and how it is organized inside, like how the files are organized for the WordPress inside the server, and how you can actually go ahead and access that server, right? And these are certain pointers, just keep in mind while you're working with it. I would recommend go ahead and try these things out. Go ahead and try to open up the Hostinger panel, go to the file manager, try to do these things, try to create a subdomain, try to install this your website on the WordPress on the subdomain, right? This will help you a lot. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope so everything was clear to you and you were easily able to gather it, whatever I told you, whatever I taught you, and rest. That's all for this video, guys. So thank you for watching this video. Hello, guys. Welcome to this WordPress course. And in this particular lecture, we shall be talking a little more about hosting and domain. So we have almost covered everything that is to know about the domain part. But now let us just talk a little more about the hosting part. So some concepts that you need to know, we shall be covering that in this particular lecture. So let's just look at the topics. Firstly, I will be telling you a little more about hosting from what you already know and what we have already covered in the basic workshop. After this, what I'm going to tell you is like we did not cover the types of hosting that are there inside when we talk about the hosting plans, right? Next, we're going to talk about trying to understand the website that you have. So what the website that you have, regarding the complexity for that website and regarding the traffic for that website, which will help us understand our website better and the hosting plan that we have chosen. So moving on, we shall be looking at the features. While we are purchasing the hosting, there are certain features that we do need to know. So I would also be telling you about a little more about that. Most of it is be covered and has been guided through in the basic workshop, so that you don't make a mistake while purchasing the hosting. But it is still that I would like to leave no gaps, or leave I would like to cover every topic that is there regarding the hosting, so that you are better informed while going through the hosting plan that you're going with, right? So finally, we're going to take a look at the hosting options. So let's just starting from the first part. We shall be talking about the hostings, and we have been talking about the hosting. And in the hosting part, the hosting division is such that it is based on the operating system. Since we know the server is just a computer with an operating system, so the operating system can be a Linux based operating system or a Windows based operating system. So mostly what we prefer is now we can use both of the hostings, but in this particular course, and what I recommend is we always go for the Linux hosting. It will have a cPanel, or if your host is like has a customized cPanel, it will have like in Hostinger itself you have an H panel, because they've customized the whole panel where you have the dashboard, the files menu, how to install the WordPress, that area, SSLs, domains, everything. All of these settings that are available are very customized. So if you're going with Hostinger, they have a separate Edge panel, which is Linux based itself. It is just they've customized it themselves. And like in the Windows hosting, you do have a Plesk hosting. So you can go for that, but I wouldn't recommend for going for the Windows hosting. One is Windows hosting is not that convenient. Linux hosting is more convenient. So I would recommend to go for the Linux hosting. It is just the division is such that you have two parts. You can go for the Linux hosting as well. You can go for the Windows hosting as well. And you just have to check with the hosting provider. Do they offer WordPress hosting in the Windows? Mostly they do. There might be some cases where you might find it difficult to configure WordPress in Windows hosting. But overall, you can actually go with the Windows hosting also. I wouldn't recommend it, but yes, you should go for the Linux hosting. All right. Talking about the types of hosting, now that was the previous division was based on the operating system. Now I'm telling you about the hosting that is like, firstly, we have the shared hosting. So the shared hosting is something like, if you have a certain, if you have a flat, right? Supposedly you have a flat inside if you have in a building, you have a flat, and inside that building, inside that flat, you have a single room. So suppose you can relate yourself to like probably sharing a single room with your colleagues or with your roommate. So that is something that one room is being shared with all of the persons, right? So all the resources that are present inside that room will be shared, including the cupboard that you're using, that will also be shared probably, or the washroom, that would also be shared, right? So these things would be shared in that part. So the resources are limited, and all of the person are sharing that. If you come back to the like topic in hand, which was like shared, if you take it to the in terms of server, now a single server will have multiple websites. And what is a server? A server has basically same things what a computer has, like the RAM, the CPU power, right? And these things will all be shared. So if a person is trying to access a website, and one website that is on a server, other person is also trying to access the website on the server, and other websites, like probably 3-4 websites, a single server has 3-4 websites, then all the resources of the RAM and the space will be used. And that is how the shared hosting works. Moving on, let's talk about VPS hosting. So in the VPS hosting, what happens is you can relate it to something like having a single flat, but having 3 rooms inside it, supposedly 3 rooms inside it, and one room that is dedicated for you. So it is compartmentalized. That means you do share a flat, but you have your own room. Your resources for that room are not being shared, right? So that means that you can relate to VPS hosting. The single server, although is being shared by probably 3, 4, 5, 6, depending upon the hosting provider, by multiple websites, but the server is compartmentalized. That means it will have its own space, own resources that will be dedicated to that particular compartment. So that is how VPS hosting works. And like the shared hosting would be the cheapest. Then moving on, the VPS hosting